Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Steven here once again. Well, we're a few days away for the return of NASCAR racing at Richmond. But before we preview that event, let's talk about a few more things during the off week that I found interesting to talk about, as well as preview the playoffs for the Xfinity Series and the Cup Series. Now, first things first, I do want to talk about it's that was confirmed earlier today regarding Michael McDowell. As you know, he's going to Aspire Motorsports next year, but Ronnie Childress will not be his crew chief there when he does join that team. Instead, that honor will go to Travis Peterson. Now, he and McDowell did work together once before, but they won together last year at Indy, during the Indy Road Course. So if they have a good, strong chemistry together at Aspire, they could be a contention for a playoff spot or two for the team as a whole. At this point, however, we still don't know who Ronnie's driver will be for next year. But we have to wait and see how that would play out. Now, next thing I want to talk about, speaking of crew chiefs, is that apparently Adam Stevens will be forced to sit out for the next few weeks due to a double knee injury. Stevens, as you know, has been the crew chief for Christopher Bell for the past few years. Because of that, temporarily, and the guy would write that. Chris Sherwood, the car chief right now, will act as interim crew chief, with Stevens still being on standby at the war room over at Gibbs. Now, hopefully this new pair will work for Bell. We'll have to wait and see from Richmond and beyond how long Stevens will be out, but I do wish him a speedy recovery just the same. Before we go any further, thoughts and prayers go out to the victims of Hurricane/Tropical Storm Debbie that struck the Panhandle of Florida and South Georgia earlier this week. So I do want to express my thoughts and prayers for those affected by that storm as well, before I forget. Got a couple more international stories to talk about right quick involving NASCAR. First, that NASCAR might do both Mexico and Montreal next year. The proposed Mexico date is set in June 8th, meaning that it would take place after the Coke 600 and would be as part of the Amazon portion of the broadcast schedule. With Montreal supposedly fit in later this year, which is one of the reasons why the schedule for 2025 has not been announced yet. Speaking of that, which I'll get to shortly, but first I want to briefly talk about the possibility of the Clash for 2026 to take place in Brazil. And NASCAR brought up a good point when he talked about this on his video. First, he briefly brought up about the travel expenses for the teams, but he also brought up a fair point about the potential of trying to squeeze in more or less in the marketplace down there by F1 in Brazil, similar to how F1 is trying to get its footing into North America along the way as well. So we'll have to wait and see if that will play out for 2026 and beyond. But going back to 2025 for a moment, supposedly the playoffs for 2025 will look like this. For the opening round, yeah, I gotta wait for that jet to pass by, folks. Sorry about that. But like I was saying, for the opening round of playoffs for 2025, the proposed schedule will be Darlington, Gateway, then Bristol to wrap up the first round, then New Hampshire, Kansas, and the Roval for the next round, Vegas, Talladega, and Martinsville, and then the championship at Phoenix. And boy, Talladega in the last round before the championship gets decided, it's going to be chaotic to say the least. Although personally, I get why they want that, probably because NBC is only doing, we end up doing only 4 races next year out of the 14 that have been assigned to, with 10 going to USA. I would imagine it makes sense from a marketing standpoint to put Talladega on NBC rather than USA. If I had to guess right now, the broadcast schedule for NBC next year will most likely be both super speedway races, Phoenix, and a random playoff event, either Charlotte Roval, Martinsville, or whatever. But we have to wait and see on that. Again, if I had to guess on that. Now the Xfinity series is off for 1 more week after this, as they'll be going to Michigan afterwards. And right now, these are the drivers that I see that will make the championship for the Xfinity series. Which, before we start that, as a reminder, the next 5 races will be on USA. Then from Bristol onward, CW. Just remember that. Anyway, the 4 drivers I think that will compete for the championship at Phoenix will be Allgaier, Custer, Hill, and Chandler Smith, with the slight advantage of the 4 going to Custer and Allgaier. I think one of those 2 right now will be the championship favorites. And that's of course assuming if they make it out of all the rounds virtually unscathed. But with Atlanta, not Atlanta as a cup, with Talladega looming in the playoffs, that could be a game changer. But again, we have to wait and see. Meanwhile, for the Cup Series, you can any one of these 8 drivers could win the championship this year. Larson, Blaney, Elliott, Reddick, Bell, Byron, Truex, or Hamlin. One of those 8, in my opinion, are the favorites to win the championship when we get to Phoenix. I'll be more in-depth preview at Richmond on Thursday, by the way, in case you're wondering. But right now, I still think Larson has a slight edge over everybody else, although Reddick is probably the best of the rest in that regard. So most likely one of those 2 will be the top 2 picks for the championship as we stand. But anything can happen, as we all know by now. Now my plan for Thursday is to preview Richmond for both Cup and trucks, along with giving you my final prediction of the playoff grid for the truck series out of those remaining spots, which, as you recall, 8 are locked up, but 4 drivers are looking for 2 spots. Everybody else that's racing full-time in the trucks has not locked in a spot yet on wins or points. They have to win. So we'll wait and see how that will play out on Saturday for the trucks and Cup for Sunday. 7:30 for FS1 Saturday night for the trucks, and 6 o'clock USA for the Cup Series. So I remind you guys on that as well, because from here on out, other than Daytona, USA will take over the Cup Series broadcast for the remainder of the season outside Daytona until we get to Talladega. Then from Talladega onward, it will be NBC. And as a reminder, Lee Diffie will be calling the shots for the Cup Series broadcast beginning this weekend. And we have to wait and see how he does for the first time in the Cup Series booth in years. But if I know fans of NASCAR, they'll pick on anything at this point. Anyway, that's about it for now. I'll be back on Thursday to preview Richmond and give you my picks on who I think is going to win at Richmond, plus who will make the championship 2 spots for the Truck Series. And anything else I found interesting Wednesday and Thursday. And until then, I'll see you next time. Bye.